Indeed, indeed, and this is one of the things that can happen despite the distancing. And as we begun our conversation already, I'm sorry, you're going to see
Yes.
the cleaning guy go behind. These are the representative of the time. Is once a week we are lucky to have a guy who comes and cleans up the entire house. But anyway, so the reality of the times is that this is one of the things that can happen despite the norms of social distancing, and we are able to at least conduct a conversation, if not make some music together, but we are at least able to discuss. And one of the primary reasons why I put out this format is I wanted to brainstorm with some of the top thinkers. Voice is echoing on Instagram or Facebook? Instagram? Okay. Okay. I think I have to get back to my. Okay. So that might make it a little better. So we can do. This is something which is possible. So on to my first question. We've already been discussing it. Do you think online concerts are going to be a viable reality in days to come?
I think we will have to make it a viable reality, whether or not it seems possible right now, whether or not this seems the best option for all of us right now. We will have to make it a reality, because much as I'd like to be very cheerful and positive and say that, oh, better times will come by very soon, we do know that this is a hell of a virus that we are dealing with.
Yes,
This is
indeed.
a absolutely satanical virus that we are dealing with. And I think there may be many waves of this virus which will perhaps where the lockdown will be lifted but might have
Hmm.
to be implemented again. And in any case, the prospect of having thousands of people gather for a concert, which
Hmm.
all of us have experienced and enjoyed and played to, I
Right.
think that's quite a distant reality, Purbayan. And therefore, I think we will need to look at the online medium very, very carefully, in a manner where we now professionalize it also. And when I
Yes.
say professionalize it, I don't only mean the question of monetizing it for ourselves, but
Right.
also making, I mean, what is our prime concern? We would like our audiences to listen to us with the best possible sound.
Indeed.
And I think those issues are some that we will have to grapple with.
Yes.
We will have to look at, experiment with equipment. We'll have to speak to our audio engineer friends and professionals to see how they can help us best. And for each form of music, I don't know, you seem wonderfully equipped for the online platform. But for example, the tanpura is can be quite an unpleasant sound on online.
Indeed,
If
it is.
bit
Yeah.
far away, it sounds like a thousand, like a big swarm of mosquitoes zinging away somewhere. If
Yeah.
you keep it too close, then it sounds like it's swallowing up your voice. So I
Yeah.
think these things will really have to be worked out carefully.
I think by its very nature, the Tanpura is, since it's a drone, it's called a drone. So
Yes.
so it kind of, it has all these undertones and various subsidiary frequencies, because it's, while the resonance causes that. And yeah, so we were already talking about sound. I'm very glad you brought that up, because I think that is a primary challenge. Not only in terms of the lag, the latency or the lag, that is of course a challenge when it comes to playing together, but even just the quality of sound, the bandwidth that is being offered. And I personally feel that the streaming services will have a big role to play.
Yes.
Those who are providing us that bandwidth or that platform, they will have a major role to play in terms of providing us the infrastructure, because I
Yes.
don't think it is within our means as artists to make that happen.
Yeah, I think we are all facing problems with connectivity, whether it is with 4G connections or whether it is with broadband connections. And I think we'll really perhaps need to look at hubs
Hmm.
where, perhaps in a sanitized kind of a way, we can meet maybe without an audience.
Yeah.
But
Yes. Yes.
perhaps meet there, and perhaps, like earlier on, video conferencing used to be done like that. That you had places which you could hire and go
Yes.
to for video conferencing,
Yes.
till of course technology made it possible for you to
Yeah.
video.
Right to your device.
Yeah, I think till the time that we are able to get a satisfactory solution, perhaps we may need to think of studios with really good broadband connectivity with bandwidth also,
Hmm.
and perhaps stream from there. But that, of course, can only happen once the lockdown is lifted.
Indeed, indeed, and I think people are already in discussions about. I'm one thing I find very heartening is I've been noticing on social media also that if you call it an industry, it is an industry, and I think it is actually a bigger industry than we often give it credit for. But as an industry, you see a lot happening already. I mean, I think people are already at, sometimes even I think we are in a sort of a compensatory mode. There is more happening now than ever happened before.
Have you seen what I've said when I've shared your post on my Facebook account?
I
So you know what I said? I said first, I've been very, very polite and said, please join us. I'm looking forward to this. And then I suddenly couldn't stop myself from saying that, I feel like a bit like when we used to fly earlier,
Hmm.
and the airlines would announce that we know you have the choice of many airlines, but thank you for flying with us. So I'm feeling a bit like that because I'm online so often that, I'm feeling like saying that you have the choice of many online programs, but please do fly with Purbayan and
Please.
me. And I said, I'm very reassured by the fact that Purbayan has a huge audience. So I'm hoping that there will be people flying with us tonight.
Well, I'm thankful. I mean, there are people watching in. I think it's become so. Which brings me on to the next subject. I do you think this is going to level the playing field somewhat, like in terms of, because it's a bit of a new game, no?
Well, it's going to level things in one way,
Hmm.
but the one way in which perhaps leveling cannot happen too easily is in the music making.
Yeah.
Everybody has access to the means to go online, I mean, everybody will have their phones, smartphones, their iPads, their laptops, and those of us who are better equipped to or qualified will have our audio interfaces and our microphones and everything, but to stream live. But I think where we still need to be very careful is in the presentation format and in the content.
Indeed.
What is it that we are going to be offering our audiences,
Indeed.
and how are we going to make it any different from what we've already been performing? And I think
Hmm.
this is a subject which each artist will have to grapple with. I
Hmm.
mean, how many times, despite all the talk about, classical music always giving you the choice to improvise spontaneously or elaborate spontaneously. So no Yaman is going to be like your next Yaman.
Next one, yeah.
But at the same time, there are similarities, and a month of Yamans may not get you anywhere. So, unless you plan it in a manner in which you have really repertoire that people would want to hear from you, I think yes. As I said earlier, everybody can go online. Anybody who wishes to perform can go online. But what content are you going to offer? And is content going to matter to our audiences?
Indeed.
Finding the right audience and artist match will
True.
be a challenge.
True. And you've actually like hit the nail on the head, and it's something very important, actually, something very potent. I think probably repertoire will be very important, and I think this time we've got a. It's a good opportunity to look at new repertoire or to try new things out. I mean, I'm trying to look at it positively and think and hope that artists will also bring new repertoire to their audiences. So as you said, 100 Yamans won't get you by, but if you look at other forms of kalyan and uh, also other formats, I think in terms of pushing the envelope, a lot of work is happening already, and it's heartening to see that there are new frontiers opening up. But Shubhaji, I'm getting a lot of requests here because you are in front of the screen. I think people want to hear something from you.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
if
Let me see
if
if I... Ah, ah, झूला झूले झूला झूले नंदलाल संग राधा गुजरी झूला झूले नंदलाल संग राधा गुजरी
uh,
झूला झूले झूला झूले झूले झूला झूले नंदलाल संग राधा गुजरी कहे कहे राधा जी पुकार पेंगे मार सरकार
Oh.
उड़े पगिया तोहार उड़े पगिया तोहार मोरी उड़े चुनरी झूला झूले नंदलाल संग राधा गुजरी.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much. You actually made my day because, and this really makes me miss the live element, of being sitting in an auditorium or up front or in a baitak and hearing, music. I feel this is one of the things, despite being, a modern man and being loving technology and all that. But I think this device puts a bit of a distance. Of late, I've been trying to teach some people online, and I realize that the distance is very tangible. It's a real distance.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot that is good also about an
Hmm.
online class, but the challenges are many, and particularly, and I'm sure the same challenges will exist for you. For me, one of the biggest challenges is that I'm dealing with breath. I
Hmm.
have to also teach about how to use your breath, how to insert silences in between, how to inhale and exhale without sounding like there's an elephant in the room,
Yeah.
and so so and the mic is a very unkind teacher.
Yes.
It brings out all the many flaws in your in the sound in your
Just
voice
like the
actually.
camera is to actors.
Yes, yes. So I think it's exposing new challenges, and I'm learning as I go along. But I'd like to just go back for a second to that month of Yaman, the remark that I made. I think Purbayan, perhaps a month of Yamans is possible because you and I, as students of music, may want to listen to a month of Yamans because that's giving us many, many perspectives from many artists.
Right.
Or, for example, the greats that we listen to all the time. I
Right.
mean, who would not want to listen to a month of Yamans from Ustad Amir Khan Sahab or Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab or Pandit Ravi Shankar ji or
G.
Vilayat Khan Sahab? So I think, for perhaps even for us as listeners, there will be niches that will be available online for those who do want to listen in depth
Hmm.
to a certain rag or to certain guts and certain bandishes in one particular rag. I think all these possibilities are strengths of this platform,
Yes,
and
indeed.
perhaps we should explore those. It
Yep.
doesn't matter if our audience then for that particular series is only a handful.
Sure, absolutely. Well, for instance, one of the examples is that these days, if you look at the way the music industry has evolved, and I'm going off on a tangent, it has nothing to do with the lockdown or anything, but or the virus or anything. But the other day, I was having a discussion with somebody. Some things are here to stay. Like that was the subject of our discussion. Like when sort of records, like I mean, LP records changed to cassettes, and then subsequently to CDs. I remember like when I was a kid and when the CDs came, we thought they were here to stay, as in we would it would be enduring, and we'd always, this is how we would listen to music, is okay, we had like a gramophone, and now we'll have a CD player. And but
Yes,
that vanished pretty seamlessly, and we evolved to this, and CDs were already digital, so it is not like it's digital versus analog, but it's
yes,
just a physical product versus lack of the physical product. And I do not think we really feel the, of course, having said that, CDs are still made, and even vinyl is still made,
yes,
interestingly enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
very much, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
they all coexist, and it's not that once people who love vinyl say, okay, now I'm a vinyl lover, so I don't listen to. So people have everything, but we should look at the convenience of it also. I just go on YouTube if I want to find out, say, nut kamod or something. I will just search, and it's tough. It was tough like 10 years, 15 years ago to find the kind of repertoire, and now you just go on YouTube and there'll be like at least 5 6 nut kamod being a little rare. But if you look for a Kedar or a Khamaj, you'll find like so many renditions, so many styles.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And also, when you were talking about, phases in the music industry, remember in popular music, as with multi-track recording and digital recording, we actually did away with the entire idea of having a whole set of musicians in a studio playing together.
Right.
And in fact, we preferred the clean digital sound that we got. I mean,
Indeed.
studios became small spaces where only one musician would sit and dub, and then the other musician would come and dub. So in a sense, that distance we have negotiated and actually enjoyed. Because
Indeed.
yeah, I mean, that's the way to go. I mean, if you have everybody sitting together,
Hmm.
you're not going to be able to get any isolation, so you won't be able
Indeed.
to equalize
Absolutely.
sound properly.
Yeah.
But and we've enjoyed that.
Hmm.
Today, because it's being forced on us and our audiences are taken away, they
Yeah.
are wrenched away from us, and we also don't want our audiences to come when it's unsafe. I
Yeah. Of
think
course
that's
not.
what
Yeah.
we are really missing. We are
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
missing our audiences.
We are missing our audiences, and yeah, and that's why probably a lot of activity is happening online, because we somewhere feel that the audience is out there, and and also, but again, I wanted to bring another sort of analogy, into play. Is, if you think about cricket matches, many people thought that going to the stadium, and it still is the real thing, like, the whole buzz of being in the stadium and the Mexican wave and all that.
Yes,
But there are some of us who love to watch cricket from home because it has its own conveniences. I mean, I think it's a bit of this and a bit of that.
yes, yes, absolutely.
Just a quick aside, those who are getting an echo on Instagram, guys, I'm really sorry about this. I've been facing this, and I don't know how to, because I'm trying to do both formats to bring it simultaneously to you guys. But it is on my Facebook, and I'm going to put it up on my Facebook as a proper post later on. So enjoy it, and whatever echo you're getting, think of it as a free auditorium experience. You're getting all the reverb, the whole works. So I have kept my sitar here. So
Wonderful.
if you don't mind, because somebody's asking,
Please
and
do.
when I was hearing you, I was very like, it brought something to my mind. So I'm going to play something little bit.
Huh. No, no, थोड़ा और. वाह, क्या बात.
It's one of my. I love this composition, and I've heard Chandulal ji sing it live also a
Yes,
few
yes,
times.
yes.
And मुझे आपने जैसे गाया, मुझे ना, this is one of the milieus I love. Whenever I listen to your albums, or whenever I've heard you live, it's almost like there's an enduring quality about it. It's like you immediately get transported. That's the amazing thing about this music.
Thank you so much. But I remember that I sang in Kolkata many, many years ago. I think it would be over a decade ago.
Ji,
And it was in the memory of Shri Ravi Kichluji.
ji, ji, ji.
And,
I was there.
yes, you were playing before me. And I
Ji,
remember that I was in the green room and I heard this exquisite Shankara that you played. I remember it. And I stood outside the green room and listened. The green room was sort of upstairs,
ji,
and
ha.
and I
Kala Mandir, na. So yeah, yeah.
yes. And so I remember you started the Alap in Shankara, and I don't know if you heard my Wawa that then, but I can tell you that I just loved that
Thank you
Shankara.
so much. Even like going back then, now I'm almost embarrassed because I know how I used to play back then. But thank you so much. And but this is one of the things is I'm a fan of yours. You were talking about the Yamans, the 100 Yamans or whatever, like a month of Yaman. And as much as yes, of course, but I love the fact that you have such varied repertoire. You revisit, some of the more rare ragas. And no, it's not only about rare ragas, but some of the repertoire that you would like to. Some of the ragas are actually technically not that rare. I mean, for instance, Shankara is a common enough raga, but I
Yes,
think on instruments it's not performed that much, which is what makes it a little refreshing, perhaps. Or even like if you talk about the Mishra ragas like a Nat Bihag, or I mean, those are okay. Those are another territory. But even if you talk about like a Behagra, and
yes.
I love the fact that you actually visit some of that.
Yes, I was very fortunate, Purvan, to have learned from not one but several scholar musicians who really gave me varied
Ji,
repertoire.
ji,
And there were dozens of people learning from them,
hmm,
all accomplished artists.
ji,
But I think, just the opportunity to listen to even the talim that they gave to the senior musicians.
ji,
I
ji.
think all of those are very, very special moments for me. And I might have fretted at that point of time, saying, Guruji is not giving me any time. I'm sitting and listening to somebody else's talim. Today, I hold those memories so dear
Yeah,
because I remember what a privilege it was to listen to that talim even. And,
because you
and
take it in just being there.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. And I remember that, I mean, very often I would come home and tell my parents that, today I didn't get, I only got talim for about half an hour because Guruji had been teaching from the morning.
ji,
And so
ji.
I only got talim for about half an hour. And my mother would say, you should thank your lucky stars that you were permitted to sit there and
Sit
listen
there.
to everybody's talim.
So I would love to hear Shubhaji. Tell us a little bit about those days. I think it makes me very nostalgic. I think people would also love to hear like your talim, the days, those days.
So, I was born and I grew up in Allahabad, which
Ji.
is now called Prayagraj.
Hmm.
And one of the very important, significant aspects of this particular very ancient city is the fact that it had a very well-known university at that time,
Hmm.
University of
Hmm.
Allahabad.
Hmm.
And my parents were teachers of English literature there.
Ji.
And of course, their job was to teach English literature, but they were passionate about music. They had learnt music, but never had sort of taken that up as their life's
Hmm.
work.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they gave me and my only other sibling, my sister Ragini, they
Hmm.
gave us an opportunity to listen to all kinds of music, watch dance, theater, read poetry, discuss poetry, read a lot. And as a 4-year-old child, I have to make this embarrassing confession very often that I wanted to learn dance. So as a 4-year-old girl, with my hair very cut very short and a fringe, I started learning Kathak in the Jaipur Gharana style. And
Wow. I
from a
think I've read this somewhere in some interview of yours. I think I have read this.
Yes.
Yes.
And I remember that, my guru, who was from the very well-known Gangani family of the
Ji.
Jaipur Gharana, he wanted to present me, he wanted me to take part in a competition that used to take place at Prayag Sangeet Samiti.
Hmm.
So as a 4.5-year-old kid or something, I entered the junior competition. And I remember my mother's sari was cut up to make a costume for me, and there I was. And he had taught me how to do chakkars. Now, at home, it was fine because I was used to the space. But in the auditorium, when I started spinning around wildly, I forgot my bearings and I did my sum, landed with my back to the audience. But my guru was such an amazing showman.
Hmm.
He said, देखिए जनाब, छोटा बच्चा लेकिन कितनी भक्ति है उसे विष्णु दिगंबर पलुस्कर जी के प्रति. तो देखिए उसने
छुप
क्या
गए.
किया. हाँ, and there was a large painting of Vishnu Digambar ji at the back, at which
What
I had done
presence
my.
of mind.
So I have many such embarrassing stories of having, slipped up or landed with my back to the audience and many such things. But that's how I started learning music. And much later, my mother said, that part of Kathak also involves abhinay.
Hmm.
And she felt it would be a good idea for me to learn thumri as well and to learn vocal music as well. And I was exposed to a lot of listening but not really regular talim. So at the unusually sort of unconventionally late age of about 16 or 17, I started my formal talim in khayal gaiki under
Acha.
Pandit Ramashray Jhaji.
Ji, ji,
That's
that I'm
how
aware of.
the
Yeah.
journey started.
Yeah, one of the all-time greats, and not only all-time great as a singer, but उनके कितनी सारे बंदिशें हैं. What a composer, and what insights about music. उनका एक किताब भी है मेरे पास. There's one book which is written, I
Yes.
think, compiled by you, or you wrote the foreword or something to that book.
No, Guruji really wrote and prolifically, and he made compositions prolifically. He analyzed rags
जी.
prolifically, and he compiled all his study and his compositions in 5 volumes of books called Abhinav Gitanjali, Bhag
हाँ हाँ
1, 2,
वही
3, 4, 5.
उसी की बात
And
कर रहा हूँ मैं.
so, this really has become a great resource for many musicians. I meet so many musicians who never met him, but who
हाँ.
still refer to his
Yeah,
books.
use that as a benchmark, or a, yeah,
Yes,
absolutely,
yes, yes.
totally. And so now I'm going to like go on to a slightly different direction, because I've been observing, your career and how you have carved out a niche for yourself. It's pretty amazing. And I think, apart from your singing repertoire or whatever, I feel the other thing that is extraordinary about you is, and you said that your parents are professors of English literature, is exactly, is just how articulate you are, and how well you write. And we are both, me and my wife, we are fans of the way you write and the way you speak. And I feel, in modern times, it is very important, if you want to be an ambassador for a certain cultural heritage, it's important that you be able to express yourself, and like, how important do you think it is, to play that role and to have that kind of background?
I don't think there's any prescriptive kind of model that one can follow. It comes from the fact that at home, of course, there was a great love for literature, but also it stems from the fact that all my wonderful gurus, whether it was Pandit Ramashray Jhaji, or whether it was Pandit Vinay Chandra Maudgalya,
Ji.
or whether it was Srimati Naina Devi, or whether it was Pandit Jitendra Abhisheki, Pandit Kumar Gandhar, each one of them were also composers and Vagyakars. And
Hmm.
therefore their keen interest in literature of different kinds.
Ji.
Naina ji was very fond of Urdu poetry also.
Hmm.
So, I think my upbringing, both my familial upbringing as well as my upbringing under my gurus,
The Guruji.
really told me that, they gave me this idea of looking at certainly doing riyaz, certainly studying technique, certainly listening carefully to Ragdari music. But each of them really had interests which went beyond Ragdari music.
Ji. Ji.
So Pandit Jitendra Abhisheki ji was a path breaker when it came to composing also for Marathi
Hmm.
theatre,
Of
musical
course.
theatre.
Yeah.
And similarly, Naina ji was a producer on Doordarshan.
Ji.
And so, I mean, all of them really, I have been very fortunate that all of these very scholarly people who also were so keen to share their wisdom and the way they had approached their scholarship with so many people. It's not everybody who can be so generous.
Yes.
And to tell you that देखो ये चीज मुझे यहाँ से मिली और मैंने उसको ऐसे अडेप्ट करके मैं अब ऐसे गाती हूँ या
Hmm.
गाता हूँ. I think that really is something that I was fortunate to get, and I cannot thank them enough for letting me almost be a part of their extended families
Ji.
and observe all of this.
Hmm.
So truly, the credit really first goes to my parents, who were wonderfully inclusive about many things. My father was a great Kishore Kumar fan. So long before the days of mixtapes and all, he would make on a cassette tape with those boombox kind of, remember those?
I really miss those. I still have my image of the little, the composite kind of stereo
Huh.
system, and they used to be
Yeah.
so colorful with all the lights.
Yeah. And two of them. So you could make. So my father would put in his favorite Kishore Kumar song from one tape and then copy it on the other for us.
Ji,
Then
ji, ji.
take it out. So I think he gave me my first LP of the Beatles as well.
Ah.
So I think what they were doing was really giving me and my sister this a vast exposure to as many arts as possible, and then letting us
Bigger
make.
vision.
Yeah, but and just letting us
Yeah.
freely make a choice. I think their preference was for Hindustani classical music. But had I said that I wanted to learn something else, I don't think I would have come across a strict no. And if at all, I would have just, had to say, coax them a little. But they were really encouraging about my learning.
कोई लिख रहा है इधर, बार बार उनका रिक्वेस्ट आ रहा है, प्लीज रिक्वेस्ट शुभा जी टू सिंग अ कबीर भजन.
Kabir Bhajan.
Can I request? I mean, एक और रिक्वेस्ट आया, but I first नहीं आप, I'll let you sing the Kabir Bhajan. The next one is Balam Tere Jhagade from Pratibha Singh Baghel, who's an extraordinarily talented,
wonderful singer. I heard her the other day.
so she has been requesting that.
रमैया तोर दुलहिन लूटा बाजार. रमैया तोर दुलहिन लूटा बाजार. विष्णु को लूटा महादेव लूटा. विष्णु को लूटा महादेव लूटा. ब्रह्मा को लूटा लोटार लोटार. रमैया तोर दुलहिन लूटा बाजार. रमैया तोर दुलहिन लूटा बाजार.
क्या बात है.
So, I think today this piece really sort of has a relevance because this is about Maya, about illusion. And in today's world, when we all thought everything was going so well with our lives, Ramayya's Dulahan came and destroyed the entire bazaar.
सब इधर उधर कर दिया.
Yes, absolutely.
And sometimes the other day I was sitting, and I'm just sharing this thought with you. I was just sitting there and I had a thought, and it's almost like a script for a film. मुझे ऐसा लगा, this whole virtual world is so interesting because we live in our own realities, right? At the moment we live in this house, and like we are living in this house, and we call our friends and see them on video. What if I were to tomorrow visit my friend from across the street? Like that, I have a friend who lives actually across the street from here, and I go and visit him in his house. I call him just 2 minutes before on video, and he's on video saying, yeah, come over. I go to his place and he's not there, yet he's answering the call and I can see him on the video. It's almost like that.
Yeah, it is a bit spooky. Yeah,
it is a bit spooky.
Yeah, and also, I mean, on the one hand, it's spooky in a very nice way also, because suddenly you're hearing sounds that we had forgotten in the city. I mean, it's quite common to hear the koel, but to hear, you see so many birds now.
Yeah.
You hear so many sounds which were completely drowned out by the sound of traffic or by the sound of just building work going on, construction.
The entire hum of civilization.
And now you can really hear all of this, and yet at the same time, it's a pandemic. You don't know how long, which one of us will be around, you know. So
Yeah, the birds or the virus or us.
yes, yes.
It's all a level
Yeah,
playing field.
yeah.
And
Ramanaya
it's
Kulan.
funnily enough, हम लोग सुबह उठते हैं. There's this one bird who comes and chirps, and we are right by the ocean. So there's this one little bird which comes and chirps. And funnily enough, I was telling Gayatri the other day, I had completely forgotten the sound of that bird. The only place where I would hear that particular bird is when we would hear the Twitter. You know, we tweeted
Ah,
something with that chirp we hear actually outside our window.
wow. Yeah.
So, so I'm so glad that people are requesting this. I didn't want to trouble you too much with too many requests. मेरा खुद का request था, but बाकी के लोग बोल रहे हैं तो मैं मतलब बेझिझक आपको पूछ सकता हूँ. तो बलम तेरे झगड़े कभी भी, not right now, whenever you are in the mood.
Fine. You know, Balam Tere Jhagde is another interesting composition. It's several years back. I tried this. It's a dadra, and I tried to compose it, and I sang it for a concert in Delhi, which was recorded live, and it was also published.
जी.
And a few, I think maybe a couple of years ago, I got a message from a singer who said that, in fact, I heard somebody sing that, and it said traditional composition. And I felt I was sitting there on YouTube listening to this, and I was grinning away from ear to ear, thinking that it's traditional. But then she asked me also, because it was recorded in my voice, कि
जी.
ये ट्रेडिशनल है ना. आई सेड हाँ ट्रेडिशनल है भी और नहीं भी है. शब्द पुराने हैं और धुन मैंने बनाई है. सो
जी.
आई डोंट नो whether it can be called completely traditional or not, but I'm happy to be part of the tradition.
G. And once we have heard the song from you, I'll also come to the subject. I mean, while we are on that subject, come to the subject of copyrights, because that's a very interesting subject. This is an interesting territory, like
Yes.
words, traditional words. And I know you and Anish Bhai both of you are involved in this kind of territory quite a bit.
Yes.
So I would love to have some insights from you.
So let me sing this for Pratibhaji. Thank you, Pratibhaji, for being here. बालम तेरे झगड़े में रैन गई. बालम तेरे झगड़े में रैन गई. कहाँ गए चंदा, कहाँ गए तारे. हाँ, कहाँ गए चंदा, कहाँ गए तारे. कहाँ गई प्रीत नहीं, बालम तेरे झगड़े में रैन गई. बालम तेरे झगड़े में रैन गई.
I had heard this a version of this on YouTube, and it's so lovely to hear it, like, up front. Beautiful. Truly, truly beautiful. So Shubhaji, how was it? I don't know if this is a question you want to answer, and if you don't want to answer it, totally fine. But this is a question which is also my question, like my personal question. How was it being a first generation musician for yourself? Like, getting into the field and making your name as a first generation musician.
Well, I repeat this very often, and I don't think I could have been a professional musician had it not been for the immense support that I have always received from my family. Remember that I'm talking of a time which is not too recent, which is about 4 decades ago, when my mother said to me, gave me the option of taking a year off from college after I graduated, and said, listen, I can see that you're quite obsessed with music, But if you want to do music, you need to make a full-time commitment to it. And you need to be sure that you can stand on your own 2 feet. You can make an independent living
Hmm.
by being a professional musician. Otherwise, treat it as a hobby,
Hmm.
and don't go ahead.
Ji.
And she actually gave me the option of taking a year off from college to decide whether or not to do that. And I think my father agreed with her, but I think she had a lot to do with his agreeing as well. And and I think, that support, that the just the possibility of being able to do music full time,
Hmm.
and not just full time because somebody else is supporting you,
Hmm.
whether it's parents or a spouse, but doing music full time and earning your living through it, that is what I was encouraged to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
yet at the same time, there was no sort of, it was very clear that without that support, I could not have taken that step.
Yes, indeed, indeed.
And so I'm truly grateful to my parents, and not just my parents, but my family, my sister, my nephew, my son, my husband, and his family. All of them have really supported me in a big way.
Hmm.
And even today, um, if I was handling many of the things that many other women musicians do,
Hmm.
perhaps it would be difficult for me. But this kind of emotional support,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
kind of
Just
support,
being there. Yeah.
yeah, it's just so,
Hmm.
it's so valuable, it's so precious, that I'm truly grateful for it. And I know that it has made my life as a first generation musician so much more easy than it would have been
Hmm.
otherwise. But of course, as with every musician, Purbayan, there are struggles,
Yeah.
struggles to discover, when you discover your limitations, struggles when you find that when you face criticism, when you face unjust criticism, when you feel that, that people are taking advantage. So I think and mainly I think the big challenge comes from the fact, and you will agree with me about this, you put on the recording of some 78 rpm record of any of the great singers, whether it is Gohar Jan or Janki Bai, and you sort of hide your head in shame and say, when am I going to sound like one close to
A fraction of, yeah.
10% of this,
Yes, yes.
those voices and the ease with the idiom, wo kab
Ji,
aayega,
ji. Hmm.
and so I think it's these battles go on, but as a first generation musician, my battles have been made far easier
Hmm.
because of the immense support I have received from family and friends.
Hmm. Hmm. मेरे घर पे उल्टा था. I think my dad had something to do with convincing my mom. Of course, I always had the support from both of them, but mom was like, they wanted me to, study, I don't know, engineering, and I had too many interests in my life. I'm very keenly interested in the law. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
so I mean, right now it's restricted to LA law, or watching one of those courtroom dramas, but yeah, suits, exactly. So all of those, but so I wanted to be many things, but then at a certain point, I think my dad really gave me a lot of support, and I mean it continues to this day. And I think he sort of told my mom. But I think one of the dilemmas that I faced growing up was, I mean, it's not easy being a first generation musician, because I think this music is generally, the general perception is कि ये विरासत में मिलता है आपको, और आप इसको और आगे बढ़ाओ, और so a lot of the things, I mean, this is my personal experience, a lot of the things I had to learn the hard way, like a lot of the things, not only about the music but also around the music.
पर आपकी तालीम तो बहुत ज़बरदस्त है. Your father is one of the greatest teachers, and what a fabulous teacher, and what a fabulous generous
Ji.
teacher he is, and so many people learn from him.
Yeah, I'm that way. I was very lucky. मैं
Yes.
कि मुझे तालीम के लिए अब घर पे, मतलब he I learned, I had the opportunity.
Purbayan, because you asked me about being a first generation musician, I don't know if you've had the time, you couldn't have had the time to read my book called Looking for Miss Sargam. It's a collection of short stories, and one of them is about a character who wants to be, and in fact, he's a Bengali young man called Mrigo.
Okay.
And Mrigo wants to be, his obsession, his junoon in life is music. And the dilemma that many young musicians face today, particularly those who want to do ragdari music, is the plot around which that story revolves, and the challenges that they face in earning a decent livelihood, also when they're not supported by the family. So maybe if you get the time.
I would identify with Mrigo quite well. I hope I don't have to re-identify with him post-lockdown. But I'll tell you, I've been meaning to order your book, and I'll do. That's one of the first things I'll do, because I'll tell you, Kaushiki, who's a friend of mine, she was reading your book, and she told me that, and one of the things that she told me was interesting about your book is that there were a lot of sort of funny anecdotal, sort of almost parodial anecdotal kind of sequences, which I'm really looking forward to it. I love to be able to laugh at myself, and I think it's one of the things,
Well, I must warn you that the book is funny because it creates a sense of very laughable situations, but actually it's a book full of the tragedies of being a musician. So
well, we don't laugh at ourselves enough, and that's when a funny situation becomes a tragedy. A tragedy is only when you don't laugh at it enough.
yes,
I
yes.
think I think a tragedy sort of transforms into a comedy. We can all, if you have the ability to laugh at almost anything, then you can transform a tragedy into a comedy.
Yes.
So one of the songs, I again keep getting a lot of requests. Somebody is asking me to play, and you were asking you to sing also, Rangi Sari.
That Shobha Tai's piece.
Which
I'll tell you a problem, and I'll confess to everybody, all your listeners today. I have a problem with singing a song that I've heard in an iconic voice. Whether it's a Begum Akhtar. Remember, you asked me once to sing a Begum Akhtar ghazal for a project that you were doing,
जी हाँ जी.
and I can't hear my voice singing any of those iconic songs. आप please बजाइए. I will listen and I will do धुआंधार वाह वाह. But
ठीक है, चलिए, जो जिनका रिक्वेस्ट आ रहा था, मैं
please,
I'll just play two lines of the song. It's more, I'm enjoying the conversation so much that
please बजाइए.
I
I
don't know
want
whether the music is interrupting the conversation or the
not
other way
in the
around,
least.
but
Not in the least. Uh, uh, hmm. Antara, antara, antara.
अच्छा.
Uh, वाह, क्या बात, वाह.
And you're so right. I mean, Shobha ji has captured the milieu of this composition in a manner where it's really, even all the high that you hear, I'm hearing it as I play.
What a voice and what a unique expression.
Kamal.
Really amazing. And the kind of passion with which she
जी
sang,
जी.
I was truly, I won't even call an admirer. I'm a bhakt of her singing.
और सच में मुझे मुझे तो ऐसा लगता है, I mean, that one of the things that may actually happen post the lockdown, or whenever we get back to, I think it's going to be a few months before we actually, I begin to wonder how it's going to be going to a concert after this. Like, is it going to be very emotional experience? Is it like the first ever concert that happens after all this is over?
I think it's going to be a very, very big one for all of us to be able to be in the presence of an audience. And at the moment, we don't even have the luxury of performing with our colleagues. I mean,
हाँ वही
even accompaniment is a
जी.
problem. But I think um, it's going to be quite a special moment, and I hope that everybody documents what happens to them.
Yes, this is
I
what
think,
I'm thinking. Yes.
yeah, it would make for a great documentary. The first time you realize people have been performing for 30 years, 20 years, 40 years, and then perhaps, this taking away of this opportunity, being robbed of that opportunity is really going to make us value it even more than we did earlier.
Just the emotion behind it, and you know, this reminds me of my childhood days a little bit. I remember हम जब बचपन में थे तो कोई तबला प्लेयर आके घर पे रियाज करे तो हम लोग बहुत एक्साइटेड हो जाते थे. I
Mm-hmm.
remember in my childhood days कि some tabla players would come to practice with dad,
Yes.
and तो 1 घंटा निकल जाता था, 1 सवा घंटा 1.5 घंटा निकल गया तो आई वुड बी वेटिंग कि कब डैड का हो गया तो 10 मिनट में बैठूंगा. So playing with somebody, and we, we as somebody who has, as people who have been performing, we took that for granted, and now it's such a special thing to make music with somebody.
Absolutely. And also the many musical ideas that your colleagues give you. I mean,
Ji.
it's not just a question of keeping a theka
Hmm.
or just following you. I
Ji.
know that in my case, I've always had the great fortune to get so many musical ideas from the people I've performed with.
Ji.
And,
Ji. Ji.
and I'm
बिल्कुल.
truly grateful. It really enriches the performance in ways that perhaps we don't articulate often enough. But है तो उनको बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया for what they bring to the
Absolutely. आपने मुझे एक बहुत मुश्किल काम दिया था. I remember I performed at the Serendipity Festival. You had given me old sitar recordings. और
Yes,
आप अभी आपने जिक्र किया वो, like when will I sound a little bit like that, और आपने मुझे वही काम दिया था. But you said thankfully you said interpret it in your own way. तो कम से
हाँ
कम मुझे वो poetic license मिल गया.
नहीं नहीं, और वो होना ही पड़ता है बिकॉज कब ये भी हम लोगों ने सबने किया है, मतलब मैंने तो किया है कि व्हेन आई रियली एंजॉयड समबडीज म्यूजिक तो मुझे लगता था कि हाय कब मैं ऐसा गाऊंगी, और मेरी पूरी कोशिश ये होती थी कि मैं उनकी नकल करूं।
हाँ, तो वो
और
तो
नकल
करते हैं
करने
ना हम
की
लोग.
मैंने भरपूर कोशिश की।
जी.
फिर एक दिन अक्ल आती थी कि नहीं भैया, नकल से काम नहीं चलेगा, ये इसको आपने इंटरनलाइज करना होगा, इसको अपना बनाना पड़ेगा, आत्मसात करना होगा, और तब फिर आपकी अपनी आवाज में उसे गाना पड़ेगा। सो आई थिंक दोज एंड दैट हैज हैपेंड। आई थिंक क्लासिकल म्यूजिक इज अ ट्रेडिशन व्हिच अलाउज अस टू डू दैट, बिकॉज
जी.
पुरानी पुरानी बंदिशें हैं, वो
जी.
हम
जी.
सब गा रहे हैं इतने सालों से, तो
और क्या.
वो पूरा इंटरनलाइज करने का हमारा सिस्टम है ही।
जी. जी.
So I'm very grateful that you agreed to be part of that living tradition
No,
concept.
it was a memorable experience. And before we sign off for the day, I would like to gain a little insight about this, because I feel that now more than ever, I know you and Anish bhai have been like strong proponents of this. This whole concept of copyrights, gema, collecting royalties for our work, because that's one of the things that would stand musicians in good stead if somebody had gone through the proper processes, would have gone through, and if their compositions are out there even in the independent or classical field, I think they would stand in good stead. They'll get some royalty money. Do you think that's going to be a very important subject going forward?
I think before even the royalty issue comes into play, even before the money comes into play, I think it's a question of acknowledging that people have rights.
Hmm.
It's a
जी.
question of acknowledging that a certain agreement was reached.
Hmm.
मान लीजिए आज आप मुझे जैसे we are talking to each other,
जी.
और मैं कहूँ कि ठीक है, अब मैं इसको रिकॉर्डिंग को मैं सेव कर लूँ आपके फेसबुक पेज में से उतार के, और इसे धीमे धीमे बेचना शुरू कर दूँ
Hmm.
आप
Hmm.
पूछे बगैर, तो
Hmm.
आपको कैसा लगेगा?
जी, बिल्कुल.
And so I think
Yeah,
more.
the other way around.
No, but I'm just saying that
Yeah.
it's a question of establishing
जी.
that we need to ask each other
जी.
what we are able what are we going to do with this, and it's very important to ask everybody who's in that chain.
जी. जी.
If I have people accompanying me,
Hmm.
and let's say we do a concert, it goes off very well, and then I sell the audio recording because I made an audio recording
Hmm.
and publish it without asking the accompanying musicians.
जी. जी. जी.
Our Indian law is so wonderful that it gives equal rights to even each Tanpura player who is accompanying us. Actually speaking, they have as much right
Hmm.
over a performance or a recording of a performance as any of us who are performing as
Whereas they may not be aware
yes,
of that fact
exactly.
also.
And so, first, it's a question of acknowledging that they played a role in your performance. They played Tanpura for you, asking them, can I share it? Whether it is to be shared even free of charge, I
Hmm.
think the least we can do is ask everybody
Ji,
involved.
ji.
And I think that aspect is really, really important for us to be good teammates.
Hmm.
And we can only be a team when we respect each other's
Each other's
work.
presence and each other's
Yeah.
our Instagram feed is going to run out, but that's fine. I'll just wind up this wonderful time that I've had with you, and conversing and learning so much and getting so many insights. But I want to tell my entire audience that Shubhaji has been at the forefront of some wonderful charities, and especially and at other times also, but especially now in these times, yeah, I have found out, about her charity. Shubhaji has told me, and I had the privilege of, being able to do whatever, something small in my capacity. And I really feel that we should come together as a community, like, musicians or artists or whatever the larger community is. And I really laud the efforts of that you have taken, in bringing people together and doing something really effective.
Well, thank you so much for being part of the other campaign, and I'm really grateful that we were able to. We set out with the idea of raising about 35 lakhs to support 100 artists and their families for
Ji.
6 months till October. But fortunately, we received contributions from all of you, and we received a very big contribution from HCL, from the HCL group, which really made it possible for us to now look after 132 artists and their families
Wow.
instead of the 100 that we had planned. So thank you, Purbayan, for that as well.
Not at all. And it's like, I think we should all take an example, take a leaf out of your book. And so I wanted to end this conversation on that note. Is we are going through trying times, but it is important that we come through together as, and I'm saying this for the audience, is that it's very, very important that we come together as a community and donate. I mean, so all of us are going through trying times, but some are in a worse position than others, and it's important that we pull our resources together and do something for and pass our benefits on, like whatever, however much we may be privileged, just pass it on. So Shubhaji, thank you so much. Truly privileged and honored to have you here on this platform. And thank you for your love, thank you for all your support, and we shall remain
And
connected.
my regards to Gayatri also.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. She's been watching the entire thing on her phone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.